Guys, can we agree that traditional boxer briefs have been long overdue for an upgrade? Well, on a hot summer day, a U.S. soldier on his second tour of duty in Iraq had an epiphany. Why not put 3 separate compartments in your underwear to keep everything downstairs separate, cool, and comfortable? It wasn't long after Sheath was born, and this innovative design redefined men's boxer briefs. Sheath underwear reduces skin-on-skin contact, which minimizes the buildup of heat and sweat. Sheath underwear are the holy grail of underwear. Guys, you need camo. You ever been out in the woods and you just gotta go? You don't want to be seen? And what about these? When I put these on, I feel like an Egyptian king. But you don't have to take my word for it. Go test them out for yourself. Our friends at Sheath sponsored this video, and they're also giving you the opportunity to try them out for 20% off. All you got to do is click on the link below. Just make sure to use the promo code Chael at checkout. Or go to sheathunderwear.com/Chael and save 20% today. I got asked a question, and it was, when does the UFC have to offer Jon Jones fights? Because it's been 3 years, which means Jon has turned down 9 fights. So, hold time out. Hold on. No, we don't know that. I said, where did you get this? They have to offer him 3 fights. Well, Dana says it all the time. That is true. And I know the comment that Dana's making. Let's break down some of the economics of MMA. When you're offered the 3 fights, and I must tell you, nobody fully understands how those contracts work when a person decides not to stay busy. If the UFC decides you're not going to stay busy, that would mean they freeze your contract. And I could count the amount of times that they've ever done that on way less than one hand. But the way that would work is whatever the terms are, that freezes. You can't go anywhere else, but they're also not releasing you for whatever reason, and until the time and the window elapsed, you're just held. Just everything's held. They got you for 3 years, let's say. That clock stops, boom, right here. So that would add on the backside. Okay, I think you understand that concept. But then you have when the athlete does it. And there's a couple of terms that the athlete can use, and they matter. They're very, very relevant. If Jon Jones wanted to remove himself from the sport for a period of time, he mistakenly could have said, I'm retired. It would do the same thing. We see plenty of guys that use the R word that still go into training. I mean, I could use St. Pierre just as an example, and a name that you would know. Trains twice a day, every day. Can't remember the last time he fought. 2019? 2017 has been a period of time ago. Twice a day, every day. It's just his lifestyle. Now, I'll also share with you the guys that are going to come back. If you use the retirement word, that will remove you from the USADA pool instantly. Another step is not required. You don't need to contact USADA. If you use the retirement word, you're out. That comes with some red tape to re-enter. Henry Cejudo is going through that right now. Brock Lesnar, to go back, if you guys remember that story, was going to have to deal with it. And Conor McGregor has it to look forward to. All right. If the athlete uses a different word, such as resigning, I'm resigning the championship, I'm giving it back, I will tell you it is greatly debated on what that does with your contract. I'm not going to fight here. I'm going to take some time. That could be a vacation. A lot of that has to do with mental and just rebuilding. Physical. Jon Jones's case, it was very physical. I'm going to go put some size on. But there's still a word. Right? There's a word that gets used, and then that is debated. So generally, it would just be an agreement and an understanding. If Jon Jones says, I'm out, to the point of, here's your belt, right? He's showing his sincerity. And he's very openly letting people know, when I return, it will be at heavyweight. The UFC does not then have to offer the 3 fights. It's not just a matter of knowing that Jon's not going to take them. There's not like a legal component where they must just say the words. Even to have Jon say no or refuse it, it stops. You can stop. So nobody's really chasing their tail there. Now, along the idea of the economics of MMA, I have been curious, purely from a nosy standpoint, right? I want to know, I got to know everything. I know everybody's business, right? I'd be very curious what Jon's pay structure is with his current coaches. And the standard in the industry, 10% of your purse, no matter how big or how small, 10% of your purse goes to your manager that lined everything up, kept it all straight and organized. 10% goes to your training. Now, notice how I finished that word training, not trainer. So if you had 10%, whatever that number would be, you would then have a responsibility to look at the folks that help you and portion that out and make sure everybody was handled. Other coaches, okay, I'm just telling you the standard. That's the standard for a professional. Other coaches might say, hey, look, I don't know when you're going to fight again. I don't know what your money looks like, but I don't need to. I'm $100 an hour. Every time that we work out, $100, and I'm using that would be a round number. Most guys are there closer to 20, they're closer to $40. I'm just sharing with you that I wonder on Jon Jones' situation, because that was tough, right? Remember when his managers parted ways with him? They made that public, they wanted that known. There was something that was harmful to the image of the business and or signing other athletes, I assume. It was never said, but they did make it public. They didn't just contact Jon, they let us all know that they parted ways with Jon. Well, don't forget, it's a business relationship. So if you're not doing any business, there's not a relationship. And that might sound tough, but think about what the managers would have to do. I mean, just imagine you were in that situation. I don't suppose for you that this is what happened with Jon and his managers. Just a little bit of a looser, broad stroke. If the athlete tells the managers, I'm not going to compete for 3 years, I'm giving a belt back. The manager's then going to go, okay, but for those 3 years, you're still going to need managed. There's still things that we're going to have to do, and you're effectively telling me that I won't be paid for 3 years. So now, but imagine that with a trainer. Hey, coach, I'm not going back there for 3 years, but the coach works with you every Tuesday and Thursday at 3 o'clock. One of these situations, you're effectively telling him I'm not going to pay you. So I've always just been curious from a Snoopy standpoint, just how Jon navigated that. Did he then go and, okay, hey, we're on an hourly rate. Was it discussed? Was it never discussed? I don't know. I would want to know that, though. Because there's an industry standard that everybody else learns, right? Like, I didn't come in and create any of the rules that I just said. It was here before me. So I would go ask, right? I asked, hey, Randy, hey, I've called Ed Soros before. Hey, how does this work? From a management standpoint, what's the right way to handle it? And there's just a standard. So it can get very interesting. Then you have the show and the win. And you guys used to be a little bit more familiar with this. They generally, every Monday, the dirt sheets would come out with a breakdown of what everybody was paid. And I'll tell you what, there wasn't a day I didn't click on that. Not a day that I didn't click what the winning show was for every single guy that got disclosed. There was something about it that was really interesting. It went away. Now, it either went away for one of two reasons. Not enough people like me. Not enough people were clicking and making that effort worth it, or it became harder to get the information from commissions. Either way, now that you have any basis for what the athlete is doing, to explain that, standard industry, not always, of course, right? But even money. Even money. If it's 10 to show, it's 10 to win. If you're at 35 to show, you're at 35 to win. Now, some people have a big problem with that. I have heard people complain about that, and it should just be one number. And your life and your bills and your planning shouldn't be based upon that. Now, the organization's looking at it and going, it's not. Your life isn't based on this. This is an incentive. I'm letting you know what I'd like to pay, but if you show me something special, I'm going to have to pay double. It's one of these things. It's supposed to be an incentive, right? That is the intent. But then you'll see other guys that don't have a win and a show. They just have a flat fee. The flat fee is designed to go to a guy who has demonstrated he does not need incentivized. A guy who has demonstrated that I have the discipline and the work ethic and the skills and the experience to come and bring a certain performance. I will do it, whether there's something extra out there or not. Now, I'm well aware that that is not what a number of guys have negotiated or ever had explained to them. I'm just explaining where that would come from. If you can demonstrate you don't need incentivized, just go with a flat rate. You then have participation and pay-per-view points. Now, that business is changing very rapidly. But that is probably the most exciting part, not only of business, of any business I've ever heard of. Microsoft, Apple, Tesla do not have a mechanism in place anywhere, no matter your position within the organization, where you then get a piece. You don't have to go buy stocks. You don't have to write a check to get it. The pay-per-view, very exciting. Somebody's just giving it to you. They're going to front all the costs. If there's a loss, they take 100% of it. But if there's not, and we can go that away, I'm going to bring you in. You are given. You are handed a partnership. Very exciting. Very rare to get. There's been 4 athletes that I know of. I'm pretty good at this. If one slipped through the cracks, but I'm close on that number of 4. To ever receive pay-per-view points and not be champion. Very, very coveted. On the other side of it, the champion, no matter how big of a draw he is or not, will get that kind of consideration. Those are kind of the economics of MMA. And this all started with me being told the UFC has offered Jon 3 fights a year every year, and because he's been out 3 years, Jon has quietly turned down 9 fights. That's not true.